Hey, what's up guys? This is Audie from ShastryNation, and today we're going to be talking about viruses. Alright, so I know that I haven't posted a lot of videos. Let's go ahead and write down viruses. Viruses. Okay, so I know that I haven't posted a lot of videos lately. I'm just, I guess, getting ready for E3, which is next week. I should have a what to expect at E3 video, I think, tomorrow, I believe. I have it scheduled for tomorrow, and then I should have 2 videos this week, actually. And yeah, I'm just getting ready for E3 and things like that. Well, actually 3 videos. I should get a Let's Play in 2. Hopefully with a friend, that'd be awesome. But I don't know, we'll have to see. So yeah, that's what's happening with ShastryNation. Trying to get E3 going. So Monday's gonna be packed for me with 4 or 5 different companies doing their conferences, I guess. So yeah, alright. So let's go ahead and get started with this. Okay, so so viruses are basically a capsule of DNA with like an end on it. So it's a capsule. And so these aren't living things. So it's classified as non-living. So this is a non-living. So this is non-living. So it's categorized as non-living. I mean, and the reason, I guess, is, you know, it doesn't have I think the categories are, you know, for living and non-living. Living, it has to be able to, you know, do certain things, I guess, like digest, make proteins, or, you know, something like that, which viruses obviously can't do. That's why they actually infect us and things like that. So we're going to talk about all things viruses. You know, we're not going to go too deep into it because you don't need it for AP Bio. You only need a pretty, you know, okay understanding of viruses. So yeah, we're just gonna go sort of deep into it. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. So viruses can actually only infect certain hosts. This is called its host range. So this basically says that it can only attack certain cells. Can only attack certain cells. So it can only attack certain cells, meaning, you know, for example, I think Ebola was there for monkeys and chimps, I think, before it actually jumped to the human species. And so what actually happens is that, you know, when we get a virus that, you know, can affect us, you know, so let's say a human being got a virus from like a dog or something like that. The viruses can't actually go and infect you, infect your cells. Now, obviously, your immune system will try to fight it off because it's a foreign substance. But the virus can't do anything itself because it can't actually go and attack attack your cells to actually cause any damage. Now, how this is regulated by the virus is actually through proteins. So cell surface marker proteins. So cell surface marker proteins. And so basically, cell surface marker proteins are proteins that will tell other cells. So like these are used to tell other cells, you know, that, oh, I'm a cell, I'm a heart cell, or I'm a leg cell, or I'm a bone cell, or something like that, or bone marrow, I'm a stem cell, or something like that, you know. And that's what basically cell surface marker proteins or surface marker proteins are used for by cells. Now, what the virus can actually do is it can, you know, recognize the marker protein and actually attach to the cell and actually insert its DNA. So, but we're gonna talk about that in a little bit, I guess. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I guess we can go ahead and start with that. All right. So let's say, let's see. Let's say we have this cell. Okay. So this is a cell. And then we have this thing. It looks like that with like a... Yeah, so it actually looks like, you know, like a three-dimensional shape, and then has its DNA inside. So this would be the virus. So the virus will actually come to the cell, and hopefully I can draw it well again. Alright. Yeah, so the virus will actually come to the cell, and it'll recognize the surface marker protein. So you'll have the surface marker protein, it'll bond, and then what'll happen is let me go ahead and erase this so I can write nucleus. Oh, alright. So if the green is nucleus. Okay, so what will actually happen is that the DNA, let me change the color. Okay, that's right, yellow. Okay, so let's say the DNA will actually go into the cell, and well, like parts of the DNA, whatever part it's going to infect, will actually go into the cell and go into the nucleus and take out the certain gene that the virus has. So I don't know, for it's going to go and insert itself into the host's DNA, and it'll do other things. It'll cause havoc by doing that, basically. So now, what'll happen is once the cell is actually been infected by the virus, there are two different paths that it can take. It could take the lysogenic. Well, it's gonna take both the cycles. Okay, so there's a lysogenic cycle, and then so let's say versus lytic cycle. So the lysogenic and lytic cycle. So lysogenic cycle is what happens is that you'll have the virus is getting ready to attack, or it's lying dormant. So lysogenic virus is lying is dormant. So the virus is actually going to be dormant, meaning it's just gonna, the DNA is gonna be in there. The cell won't even recognize it. It'll just think everything is completely fine. It'll go about its day. But what happens is something will come out and activate it, and then that'll activate the lytic cycle, which is when the virus will actually start to attack the cell. So lytic cycle, when virus attacks the cell. So how does it do this? So the virus will actually go into the part of the DNA that's the virus is put into the cell will actually be activated somehow, through gene expression. If you haven't watched that video, go ahead and watch it. It's my last week's video. So it's pretty important to understand how genes are actually going to be expressed and things like that. But basically what will happen is that, something or the other will activate that part of the DNA in the cell. And what will happen is that the cell will start to make the virus. So the DNA will actually code for the virus. You see, the virus wants to replicate and make more of itself, right? So it'll start to code for the virus. And so what will happen is that you'll have a buildup of viruses, and the cells will lyse. Alright, so let's go ahead and make a chart of that. Okay, so lytic cycle. Now you'll have the DNA, everything's fine, lysogenic cycle here. You get the point. Okay, lysogenic cycle, you have the DNA, but you have like a part of it that's not correct. So let's just say this is the blue would be the virus DNA. All right. So basically, what will happen is that you'll have the something will activate it. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. Something will activate it. Okay, activated. Okay, and what will happen is the ribosomes will start to form the protein, which is the virus. The virus is actually just a protein that holds DNA. So what it'll do, it'll start to make the virus. So let's go ahead and write it in blue, actually. All right, so I'll just draw circles. So it'll just start to make the virus. Here. It'll make hundreds of viruses, and then what it'll do, the viruses will start to, you know, build up, and the cell will burst open. Literally, it will burst open, and all of the viruses will escape to infect new cells. So this is where the problem with viruses come, at least for us. So the viruses will escape the cell. Okay, so this is where the problem arrives with the viruses. Viruses are bad because all of our cells are going to die. So that one virus that infected this one cell will, the cell will make 100 of those, which will go and infect 100 of them. And then, you know, it'll go and infect 1,000, you know, 10,000, 100,000, you know. It's exponential. So we're gonna start losing a bunch of like a bunch of cells, and we're gonna have to try to, you know, come back from that. And how do we do that? We actually, you know, the immune system will take care of that, basically. So let's go ahead and say how the immune system. We'll actually talk about this more in depth. But what will happen is that the once the cell recognizes that it's been infected, the cell will actually present a part of the viral DNA to phagocytic cells, or, you know, macrophages or something like that, and the macrophage will make antibodies based on that, and it'll, you know, lysozymes and stuff. It's too complicated, but the cell will be killed and it'll be fine. Every other cell will be fine. So, you know, we'll have to take out that one cell that's been infected in order to save the other cells. So that's basically what will happen. But we'll talk more about the immune system when we actually get to the immune system video. That itself will probably be an hour, because the immune system is very, very complicated. Alright, so now what can happen in the lysogenic cycle is that, I'll go ahead and write it here, I guess. So the lysogenic cycle, what will actually happen is that you'll have the DNA, and the cell won't actually recognize it, but it'll start to divide. So you'll have, you know, if you start out with one cell with the viral DNA, we'll just say, so viral DNA, you'll have, you know, it'll divide, it'll make 2 new cells with viral DNA. You know, and then those will divide and make 2 new cells, you know. And so the division process will keep going on and on and on and on. Well, actually, it'll only make 1 new cell, and this one will go to here, so. Yeah. Basically. So, you know, it'll keep dividing, and you'll get more and more, you know, cells that are infected, but nothing's happening. You know, it'll stay dormant for a while until it's activated, at which point, you know, all the cells will become activated, and a lot of cell death will occur, basically. And so this is where it's important to have your immune system to actually go and recognize this before this causes too much of a problem. Alright, so now let's go ahead and talk about a little bit about some antibiotics and how we can actually resist all of this virus stuff, you know. So let's go ahead and say antibiotics. Alright, antibiotics. So antibiotics will basically stop the protein synthesis in the cell. It'll stop protein synthesis. Stop protein. Okay, and then we have acyclovir. I never can get myself to actually pronounce that right, but acyclovir, I guess. And so what this will do, it'll actually prevent the viral DNA from replicating. Okay, so it'll actually prevent the viral DNA from replicating. And then there's interferon. Interferon is basically the natural defense. So this is from the immune system from your body. So this is a natural defense. Alright, and so some of the I guess problems with some of these methods, especially antibiotics or something like that, is that First of all, antibiotics can actually affect the cell itself. But a lot of the issues with actually dealing with viruses is that the virus can mutate quickly. And by mutate, I mean, if you haven't watched my video on mutations, I would go and do that. It's pretty interesting, I guess. Mutations. Now, all mutations aren't bad. I mean, I guess in our case, it's not bad. But for viruses, it's bad. Okay, for us, in terms of viruses, it's bad. When a virus mutates, we'll have to come up with a new cure. Basically, a good way to, see how this happens, and stuff like that, I would, if you're interested in all this virus stuff, diseases and stuff like that, I would go and play Plague Inc. It's a great game. I think I've done a Let's Play. Yeah, last week I did a Let's Play on it. So I would go and watch that. It's pretty interesting. And, you'll see how the, world of, diseases and plagues and stuff works. But basically, what I'm trying to say is that, once the virus replicates and mutates, and uses different DNA, basically, we can't go and, we can't do anything about that. We'd have to come up with a different cure and recognize it, things like that. That's why we get a flu vaccination every year. The doctors will actually, or researchers, I guess, will try to come up with a vaccine for something, a vaccine for the flu or something like that, based off of, assumptions that they have, like, okay, the DNA, the virus, or, the flu will take, this direction maybe this season, or this direction, and they'll have to just, try to guess, and they'll try to see, where these mistakes can happen, and it's a lot of work to actually go and do that. Now, that's some of the problems with this. Now, there are also some other things that they're coming up with, such as, putting in antibodies, just antibodies into your immune system, so the antibodies can go and, attack the, and mark the virus, for destruction, things like that. And they are working on things like that. But, we don't have that technology or research yet. So our best defense are these things here. Now, there are other types of viruses. So I guess I could talk about them a little bit. Alright, so, retroviruses. So retroviruses are viruses that are, basically, normal viruses carry DNA. Retroviruses carry RNA. And you might be thinking, oh, why is that and this is a problem. So you might be thinking, hey, why is this a problem? Well, what happens is that in order to actually insert the the RNA into the cell and, into the DNA, you have to actually convert it back to DNA, right? So what the virus will actually use is, an enzyme called reverse transcriptase. Reverse transcriptase. And so basically what it'll do, it'll convert from RNA to DNA. And this is a problem because, retroviruses can mutate very quickly because a lot of mistakes are done by reverse transcriptase. A lot of mistakes. And so it's hard to control for us. If we get if we're trying to protect ourselves from a retrovirus, we can't get out a vaccine because pretty soon, once the vaccine is out, the retrovirus will have mutated right when we get the vaccine out and restart back from square one. And so that's the issue with retroviruses. You can't really go and cure it, because there are so many mutations that happen all the time that all of the efforts that we put towards one instance of that disease or virus will go away right when another mutation comes out and things like that. All right, so retroviruses, we talked about that, very dangerous, and then prions are probably the most dangerous. Prions. So what are prions? Prions are just misfolded proteins. Misfolded proteins. So prions are just misfolded proteins. And what are misfolded proteins? So it's basically like a regular protein, you know. But what this protein will do is that it'll go to a regular protein, you know, and change its shape by changing the bonds and things like that. That's a problem. That's a huge problem, because what will happen is that the good proteins will start to end up being like the misfolded prion, and it'll cause problems. Now, the issue for doctors with regards to prions is the fact that, you know, it's hard to actually, you can't cure it. There's no way to cure it, because if you were to, you know, you can't, there's no method to take out all, you know, only prions and keep every other protein in your body. There's no way to actually do that, and so doctors have a very hard time with doing this. An example of a prion would be mad cow disease, and how you get mad cow disease is by eating raw meat, raw beef. Actually, if you eat raw beef and it happened to be there, you would get it. And I think it goes mainly towards your brain, and you start to lose, you know, all your functions, abilities. You start to not be able to talk, not be able to, you know, move, things like that, because the protein, the prion is actually going to go into your brain and misfold those proteins, and it'll stop, you know, the proteins will stop functioning correctly, meaning that, you know, problems will occur, and you don't want that. So yeah, cook your meat, and say thanks to science, because we figured that out. Alright, so basically that's what a prion is, you know, and prions are probably the most dangerous, because there's no cure for it. You can't cure it, and, you know, you obviously know why. And then retroviruses are probably the next, you know, but these are all viruses, so retroviruses are probably next, you know, because it's just hard to actually cure it again. So yeah, that's basically all I needed to talk about viruses. So if you want to get a very basic, you know, thing that, okay, what do I need to know, you know, for this? Because I did talk a lot about viruses. All right, you need to know what a virus actually is, you know, so you need to know about, it's a capsule DNA, that it's non-living. You need to know a little bit about the host range, you know, at least know that it can only attack certain cells, and maybe a little bit about how that actually occurs. And then you need to definitely know what the lysogenic and lytic cycle is, the difference between the two and what happens in each. You don't need to know every single stage in the because there are stages in the cycles, but you need to know a general understanding of what happens. Okay, how a virus will actually go and infect a cell. You do need to know that. You need to know what antibodies are. Antibiotics. This acyclovir. I can never pronounce that correctly. And then interferon. Oh, acyclovir. Yeah. Interferon. Interferon is a natural defense. All you need to know is that. But we'll talk about more of this. Antibiotics, antibodies, cytotoxic T cells, helper B cells, all this stuff when we actually go to the immune system, and that will take, you know, an hour to actually explain everything in the immune system and get a good understanding of it. Okay, so you also need to know what a retrovirus is, how those work, and prions. Also, you'll need to know that a retrovirus, the enzyme that it actually uses, and the fact that it mutates quickly, basically. That's all you need to know for everything about viruses, for at least for AP Bio. Now, obviously, there's a lot more stuff that you could actually learn about viruses, and I encourage you to go ahead and do that, because viruses are cool, because it goes into the, I guess, the field of medicine. At least for me, it's cool, and how doctors can combat viruses, things like that. So yeah, if you like this video, I would recommend watching all my other biology videos. I think I have 14 or 15 videos by now, I believe, or maybe more, I don't know. I don't keep track. But I make these every Monday, so if you want to come by every Monday and watch my biology video, or I also make a video. I try to make a video every Friday about some cool thing in biology. Last time I actually made a video on vaccines. Those take a long time because I have to actually research it and things like that. But I try to keep it simple, and so regular, your average Joe can come by and watch it and know a little bit more about how our world works. So yeah, if you enjoyed this video, I would recommend subscribing, watching all my other ones. If you're into video games and things like that, I also make videos about those, about video games, technology, things like that. So if you are interested in that, I would go ahead and subscribe to and watch my discussion videos on every topic in gaming and technology, or at least I try to do that. And I will leave you at that. I guess I'll see you guys on the next one.